There's a story in this news cycle about a fire station in Portland. This fire station responded to a nearby dryer fire, and as they were fighting the fire at the house, they saw smoke and realized to their horror that there was a fire back at their fire station. And what had happened is, in their haste to leave and respond to the call, someone had inadvertently left the stove on, and so there's a fire back at the fire station. And I thought about this. I thought, why is this in the cycle, and why is this so popular? And I guess there's a little bit of Schadenfreude, which is a German word that means we take pleasure in the misfortune of others. You know, it's ironic that there's a fire back at the fire station. You know, it's in a sick way kind of gives you something to think about. But once I got past sort of the sick irony of it, I began to think about the fact that sometimes there's fires back in my firehouse. As I'm trying to do things, there are problems that arise in my life that I have to come back to and I have to help. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guest. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what do you do when there is a fire at your own firehouse? How do you handle it when there's something going on in your life that's causing you stress and is affecting the way that you help other people? This was really born out of a conversation I had with my sister the other night. My sister's name is and she is the principal of an elementary school. She was telling me that she's always worked with special needs children in other situations, but there's been sort of a plethora of something called trauma-instructed learning that's taking place right now. And basically what that means is that so many children come to school that have seen trauma, they've seen a horrific thing happen in their home life, or something traumatic has happened to them, that it's affecting the way that they learn, it's affecting the way they present themselves at school. And she said that they were giving out all the statistics that this is about 30% of the students. And she found that kind of hard to believe, but she was laying in bed and she was thinking about her school, and she started thinking about the 4th grade. And she began mentally going through each room of 4th grade, thinking about each of her teachers and each of the classrooms, and she could put a face on this statistic, and she began to cry. Well, she said she began to weep. And when I heard this, you know, as a big brother, it kind of gave me a burden for my sister, because I'm thinking, you know, how extraordinary is it that our school system is being asked to do so much for kids? I mean, beyond even just teaching them, but to step in and to begin to try to heal the trauma of their life situation. So I said to my sister, well, let me share a tool with you that I've used that's helped me called Growing Past Stress. And I sent it to her, and she said, you know, Clint, it used to be that we would have an incident maybe once a week that would cause me to use a sheet like this. But she said, you know, now with all this trauma-induced or trauma-instructed learning, it seems as though something happens at our school every day where either I or somebody in the school could make use of a worksheet. Well, I've passed a worksheet out to each of you, violating my rule of never passing out anything before I speak, lest I take attention away from me. But I would like to just walk you through the worksheet, because I think this worksheet has some very powerful suggestions that I've used myself. The first thing it says here is to describe the stress-producing situation. Another way of looking at this question would be to say, what experience has created the most emotional response in me lately? And that's a great thing to start with to begin to work through this process when you're putting out a fire in your own firehouse. What effect is this having on the organization and on me personally? So I need to start thinking about how my feelings are related to this situation. And I know this is going to sound trite, but just bear with me. I encourage myself and other people to just have one feeling at a time. Have you ever found yourself being sad and then being angry because you're sad, or shameful because you're sad? Let's just calm down, stop some of the drama, and begin to have one feeling at a time. I'm going to be sad now, okay? Now I'm going to be angry. And this gives me a way of sort of peeling back these emotions as I begin to deal with these problems. My favorite question is the next one. What clear, identifiable evidence is there? If you thought my other statement was trite, this is even worse. But maybe you've heard this acrostic that goes like this: fear, false evidence appearing real. Okay, that acrostic, false evidence appearing real. And I think if we ever kind of objectively try to look at a situation and we try to find the evidence for the stress, we're shocked to discover there's probably less there than we thought. For instance, if Ross did not look at me or shake my hand today, I might say, well, you know, Ross, I've noticed that he hasn't been doing that a lot lately. Ross probably hates my guts, right? But this is a ladder of assumption that we climb all the time because we just start tacking on things and adding up things without really looking at the real evidence of what's there. If I have to confront Ross, well, the only thing I can really confront Ross on is the fact that he didn't shake my hand, or one thing, but not on all these other things that I have imagined that aren't even real. This is such an important question because people will often go into what I call their death spiral decisions. And that is, now that they think that the relationship is wounded, they start acting strangely around that person, therefore making that relationship even worse because of the things that they do. Well, as you can see, the rest of these questions, what consequences might result if I don't do anything about this? It's a great way of thinking forward. What are the implications over the next 3 to 5 years if I don't deal with this trend? What have I done about it so far? And many times when I do this worksheet, all I can write is, well, I've started writing on this worksheet, but I have done something. I'm beginning to address the problem. What seems to be the sticking point? Is it in me, or is it beyond me and something that I really can't control? And here's what's interesting. They have 2 questions about the benefit, and for the life of me, I can't figure out what the difference is in these 2 questions. I think the questions are there to just simply say there's a benefit about doing something about it. And then finally, you write a little summary paragraph. Now imagine if you did a sheet like this every week and you just begin to reflect on things that are happening to you. You could go back in a quarter's time or in a few months' time and read over them and see if there are any trends, to see if there are any bigger things that are going on in your life that might be happening to you that will be causing you stress. The next time you have a fire at your firehouse, take a moment and grow past stress by utilizing a worksheet like this. Madam Toastmaster.